There continues to be many more questions than answers in the ongoing saga surrounding the release of official files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The latest twist came in a late afternoon Christmas Eve announcement from the U.S. Department of Justice, claiming that over 1 million more documents have suddenly been discovered. That online statement comes on the heels of 2 earlier file releases during the past few days. The host of CBC's World Report, John Northcott, is tracking this surprising new development for us from London. John, what more can you tell us about the DOJ's announcement and when we might learn what's in these newly found files?
Good morning, Tricia. The word stunning is being used. Stunning and potential criticism being leveled at the DOJ simply because they have said several times before that was all there was to see. That was all they had, and those were all the documents they had to turn over. And then, as you say, late yesterday, Christmas Eve, an announcement from the DOJ that there could be potentially 1 million more of these documents. And when we say documents, we've seen this in the recent dumps. Not only documents, we have messages, we have photographs, we have all ways of people who interacted with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, no proven criminality at this point, to be sure, but the issue is around this, especially coming from victims and victims advocates saying, look, if all this material was out there, how was it that no one else in this case was charged? Let's look at the statement from the DOJ that they put out, in part saying this: we have lawyers working around the clock to review and make the legally required redactions to protect victims, and we will release the documents as soon as possible. Due to the mass volume of material, this process may take a few more weeks. The department will continue to fully comply with federal law and President Trump's direction to release the files. Here's the issue on this, though. Congress had passed overwhelmingly a rule that's saying that the material, all the material, should have been released last Friday. So the idea that, yes, there was a large dump this week, still, though, the fact that there is potentially 1 million more documents out there has raised a tremendous number of concerns. And this, again, criticism being leveled at the DOJ, especially by Democrats, but of others who have fought long and hard to see the full extent of Jeffrey Epstein's activities, with so many of these important and influential men from around the world made public. Tricia?
Well, now, John, you just touched on some of the men involved in this case, and we know that one of the more notorious high-profile men is spending his first Christmas as a bit of an outcast. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, pretty much an outcast. This would be his last Christmas in the Royal Lodge, this on the grounds of Windsor Castle. The rest of the royal family, worth noting, they are in Sandringham, many kilometers away from their home in Windsor. This is what the man was known as Prince Andrew, now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, no longer considered royal in that regard, no longer having those titles. We understand that even his 2 daughters have sought to take family vacations abroad. So he and Fergie, perhaps, and some close friends will be spending their last Christmas in the Royal Lodge before they're forced to move in the new year. They will then move actually to the grounds of Sandringham, where they will have what some have described as a rundown facility many kilometers away from the main house. And something else to note this week, there was a visit by a senior police officer to Prince Andrew, and he had his firearms license revoked. Now, the royal family has a long tradition of shooting in the countryside, and the former prince would have had many valuable shotguns that he would have used in those hunts. And to have a license like that removed from who was a senior member of the royal family, traditionally, this is done because they have broken the law or they represent some form of mental health concerns or potentially danger to others. No real explanation as to why that happened, but yet another ignominious mark against the man who was once formally front and center in many royal events.
John, thanks very much for this. CBC's John Northcott from London.